How to grow big, juicy strawberries. Most people plant strawberries, wait a few months, and end up with tiny, sour little berries that barely make a snack. There's a reason for that, and it's not bad luck. It comes down to a handful of choices you make before the first flower even opens. Stick with me until the end, because the last tip on this list is the one most guides never mention, and skipping it means losing your best berries the day before you pick them. Picking the right strawberry variety. Not every strawberry plant is built for the same climate, and this is where most growers go wrong right out of the gate. June-bearing types produce one big flush of fruit in late spring, then shut down for the season. Ever-bearing and day-neutral types spread production out, giving you smaller waves of berries from spring through fall. In hot, humid zones, day-neutral varieties tend to hold up better once summer temperatures climb, while June-bearing types often struggle once the heat sets in. Look for varieties bred for heat tolerance and disease resistance. Labels that mention resistance to verticillium wilt or leaf spot are worth the extra attention, especially in areas with heavy summer rain. Pick the wrong variety for your climate, and no amount of fertilizer or sunlight will fix it. Get this part right, and everything else you do gets easier. Root stock quality matters, just as much as the variety name on the tag. Bare root plants with thick, healthy crowns and pale, fibrous roots establish faster than spindly, dried-out starts. If you're buying from a nursery, skip any plant with dark, mushy roots or a crown that feels soft to the touch. That's often a sign of stress or disease before the plant ever touches soil, and it'll fight you all season instead of producing fruit. There's one more decision that matters just as much as variety, and it happens before you even put a plant in the ground. Building the perfect bed. Strawberries hate wet feet. Their roots sit close to the surface, and if water pools around them, rot sets in fast. Raised beds solve this problem by giving excess water somewhere to drain, and they warm up faster in spring, which pushes plants to start producing sooner. Here's something most growing guides skip entirely. Bed height matters for more than drainage. A raised bed that stands 30 inches or taller does something extra. It keeps rabbits out. Rabbits love ripe strawberries, and they know exactly when a berry turns red. A shorter bed leaves your plants exposed, and a determined rabbit will find a way in. Build the walls tall enough, and that entire problem disappears before it starts. Fill the bed with a loose, well-draining mix, and space plants 12 to 18 inches apart so air can move between them. Crowded plants trap moisture around the leaves, which invites fungal problems you don't want to deal with later. Soil pH plays a bigger role than most people realize, too. Strawberries prefer slightly acidic soil, somewhere in the 5.5 to 6.8 range, and soil that swings too far outside that window locks up nutrients even when they're technically present in the ground. A simple pH test before planting saves a season of guessing why growth stalls despite regular feeding. Get the bed height and spacing right, and you've already solved two of the biggest issues that wreck a strawberry patch. Bed height solves one threat, but there's another one waiting in the sky, and it needs a different fix entirely. Sun, water, and spacing. Strawberries need 6 to 8 hours of direct sunlight to produce a strong crop, but in the hottest parts of the day, that much exposure can scorch leaves and stress plants, especially during peak summer heat. Morning sun paired with light afternoon shade often produces sturdier plants and better fruit than full, unbroken sun all day long. Watering consistency matters more than volume. Strawberry roots sit shallow, so the soil dries out fast, and inconsistent watering leads to small, misshapen berries. Aim for about an inch of water per week, adjusting for rainfall, and water at the base of the plant rather than overhead. Wet leaves sitting in humid air are an open invitation for fungal disease. Mulching around the base with straw helps regulate soil temperature and cuts down on weed pressure competing for water and nutrients. It also keeps developing berries from sitting directly on damp soil, which reduces rot and keeps fruit cleaner at harvest time. Give plants room to breathe. Keep the soil evenly moist, and manage sun exposure based on your local climate rather than a generic planting label. Do that, and the plants put their energy into fruit instead of just surviving the heat. Before we go on, be sure to hit that subscribe button right now so you never miss a video. Feeding your plants for bigger berries. Strawberries are heavy feeders, but timing the feeding matters more than the amount. Too much nitrogen early on pushes the plant to grow lush green leaves at the expense of fruit. You'll end up with a gorgeous plant and a disappointing harvest. Start with a balanced fertilizer at planting time, then shift toward one higher in phosphorus and potassium once flowering begins. Those two nutrients drive fruit development and improve size and sweetness. A light feeding every 3 to 4 weeks during the growing season keeps plants fueled without overwhelming them. Calcium deficiency shows up as tip burn on new leaves and can lead to soft, misshapen fruit, so working a calcium source into the soil at planting time pays off later. Runners are another thing worth watching once plants settle in. Strawberry plants send out runners that root into new plants nearby, and while that's useful for expanding a patch, too many runners pull energy away from fruit production on the parent plant. Snipping excess runners during the growing season redirects that energy back into bigger, sweeter berries. Skip a feeding schedule entirely, and plants will still produce something, but the berries will stay small and the flavor will fall flat. Feed with intention, and the difference shows up in every handful you pick. Feeding solves size and flavor, but there's still one threat left that can undo months of careful work in a single afternoon. Protecting your harvest. Birds see ripe strawberries as an open buffet, and they'll often strip a patch clean the same day the berries turn red. Bird netting draped over the bed solves this problem, and it's worth putting up before fruit starts ripening rather than after you've already lost a crop. Now here's the pot, tied back to bed height. If your raised bed sits under 30 inches tall, rabbits become a real threat, and they don't wait for berries to fully ripen the way you would. A rabbit will grab a strawberry the moment it hits peak color, which is usually a day or two before it's actually at its sweetest and most ready to eat. That means picking early, sometimes before the berry has fully matured, just to beat the rabbit to it. A tall raised bed removes that pressure completely, letting berries ripen fully on the vine without a countdown clock running against you. Bird netting still earns its place either way, since birds can reach over a bed's edge regardless of height. Combine a tall bed with netting, and the only competition left for your strawberries is whoever's harvesting them for you. Harvesting for maximum sweetness. Strawberries don't ripen after picking, unlike some fruits that continue to sweeten on the counter. What comes off the plant is exactly as sweet as it'll ever be, so timing the harvest matters. Wait until the berry is fully red from tip to cap, with no white or green showing near the top. Pick in the cooler part of the day, either morning or early evening, since berries picked in the heat soften and spoil faster. Handle them gently, since bruised strawberries break down quickly in storage. Snip the stem rather than pulling the berry off, which protects both the fruit and the plant for the next round of blooms. Do this consistently, and a well-managed bed can keep producing for weeks, giving you far more than a one-time harvest. That's all for now. Subscribe to see more.